Welcome to the State of the Buccaneers podcast. I'm your host, Jacob Pfefferon, and this is the biggest and only fan-run podcast of the East Tennessee State Buccaneers. We'll get right back to you after the tune. Welcome back to the State of the Buccaneers podcast. It's been a long hiatus since I've recorded an episode. It's been about a month, over a month. I did an episode right after Trey Lamb got hired, and just talked about the hiring, talked about how the basketball season was going at that point. I've been slacking on getting recorded. I've just had a lot of stuff going on in my life. Just a whole lot of stuff. Just the holidays. I meant to do a holiday themed episode, try to get one out before then, but didn't have time. Just a whole lot of stuff. I got a new car. I got a new job. It started in the new year. Just started that. So I haven't had as much time as I want to, since it's kind of a big boy job now. So I've been getting trained on that. But I'm glad to be back and talk about some Buccaneer athletics. There's been a lot of stuff happen, lots of news. And I forgot one more thing. I got a new mic. I hope you noticed the sound quality. So maybe my audio will be better from here on out. Hopefully you don't get wrecked in post-edit. So audio will be better. I'm planning on getting a new camera here soon. That may have to wait. We'll see how that goes. But the big thing for me, since we're a podcast and we're on Spotify, you don't want to hear the audio crackling the whole time. But I'm grateful to have a new mic, and hopefully it sounds better. And I'm going to improve on some other stuff, lighting and background design. I know this background right here is kind of simple. It's just a mess. I'd like to have sort of a studio somewhere in my room or in another part of my house. We'll just see how that goes. But that's all I want to do. And one more thing I wanted to show you all. Back around the beginning of December, I may have shown it last episode, maybe not. I think I got this after the episode. Anyway, I had a custom figure made using a McFarlane figure base of Quay Holmes right here in the action pose. He saw it on social media. I posted all over social media once I got it. But shout out Patrick's Customs. He does painting. Sorry, I can't talk tonight. Anything you want, any sports figure, probably any other type of figure as well. He does a good job. Takes care of it. I may have some more made here in the future, but shout out to him. That's an interesting piece we're going to have up in the set. And that's about all I had for the intro tonight. Just wanted to update you guys on how I've been. And we're going to have a lot of stuff going on here in the new year. Lots of new guests. Try to get some more ETSU athletes and coaches on. I'd like to get Trey Lamb on. I'd like to get Brooks Savage back on. Any of the coaches out there that want to come on, any players, former players, just reach out to me on social media, so I know you're interested. Because I want to hype you up. Want to hear your stories. Want to hear everything you have to do. But without further ado, we're going to get into the episode tonight. And the biggest story, I'd say, in the last month of ETSU athletics is, of course, with the Trey Lamb hiring and all that. The news that came out of that, the staffing and everything. Of course, we have had signing day this last month, and it was a pretty big one for ETSU. With the transfer portal being as big as it is now. ETSU got 32-man class between transfers and just high school recruits coming off the field, straight into college. Uh, it's a pretty big class, and I'm going to go down through here and just sort of talk about each of them, as because Trey Lamb, he had a very different system compared to Sanders, and then Quarles after him. So he's been bringing in a lot of his own guys from Gardner-Webb and some outside transfers from various D1 universities and some JUCOs and a whole bunch of different guys. So we'll see how many of those make them the spring ball and how many come in after spring ball. But I'm going to break down all of them, who I'm sort of most excited for. Let's start out. I have the page pulled up. It says Lamb was very excited about the work he put in. He had to work quick with just getting hired on in December. So his goal was to get 28 to 30 mid-year players from colleges he's worked with or seen in college. And he still wants to sign 8 to 10. I think there's a few of them. I know there's a few commits. I probably won't get into them until they're officially signed with ETSU in a later episode. We'll talk about more about that when that comes down. But to start off with, there was the Jaquan Adams from Gardner-Webb. He was a freshman All-American on the offensive line, second team All-Big South OVC. He played one season at Monroe College in New York. That's one of the more ones I'm excited about. I know we need to get our O-line established. That's one of the biggest things, especially with the air raid. You need to have good, fast offensive linemen that are good at pass blocking. Let's see. Excited about him. Ty Anderson, that's one of the other ones I was really excited about. He was a 2022 Big South Defensive Freshman of the Year. Had 90 tackles, 11.5 for loss, 2 sacks, 1 interception, and 2 fumble recoveries for Gardner-Webb in his career there. Had 2 defensive touchdowns, including one against Marshall. He was a 3-star prospect coming out of high school. And was a state player of the year in Georgia. Yeah, I said Georgia. We have Jai Barnes from Gardner-Webb, defensive line. He had 25 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, 1.5 sacks. That was his entire career with the Running Bulldogs. Most of that was last year. Also played in Georgia. He was an all-state defensive lineman down there. We have Ryan Barrett, a defensive back from Gardner-Webb. Didn't see any action, but should be some good depth, and potential to break out for us in that secondary. I know we're just going to need depth back there with Sheldon Arnold and others coming back. We have Jimmy Bowdry, a defensive back from Gardner-Webb. He played 12 games, recorded 29 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, 1 sack, 1 interception, and 5 pass breakups. His freshman year was 2022. He was also an all-state player down in Georgia. Jonathan Burns, he played from 21. He played from Gardner-Webb as well. All these guys are playing. Most of these guys are going to be playing on Gardner-Webb. He played in 10 games, had 23 receptions for 182 yards and 1 touchdown. He's from South Aiken, South Carolina. I used to live down around that area, so I know that area pretty good. Um, let's see. Okay, here's the big one. One of the big ones. Another of the big ones I was talking about. Cole Doyle from St. Francis. He's probably gonna be our starter to start the year. I'd say, just with his resume, or his experience. He came from St. Francis. Um, he played 20 in the 2022 and 2023 seasons. He was their starter. He threw for close to 3,000 yards and 34 touchdowns, ran for 579 and 2 touchdowns. He was the 2022 Northeast Conference Offensive Player of the Year and all Northeast Conference first team. He was a 2022 Walter Payton Award finalist and last year's second team All Northeast Conference. He led the NEC in completion percentage, second in touchdown passes, and fourth in passing yards in 2023. He should be a good replacement for Tyler Riddell, who unfortunately hasn't found a home yet. Would love to have him on the podcast if he wants to come on. Any of these players are more than welcome to come on the show and just talk about their experiences playing at ETSU or college football in general, because that's what I want this podcast to be. But looking forward to see Cole Doyle on the field. He's going to be a good one. Next up, we have Epperfin. Sorry, I cannot pronounce his first name. I'm having tough time pronouncing that. Ephraim Floyd, 5'10", 190-pound wide receiver from Gardner Webb as well. He's from Vero Beach, Florida. He played 2 seasons at Gardner Webb, had 8 receptions for 112 yards in 2022. Last year, he had 35 receptions for 407 yards and a touchdown. He led Gardner Webb in receiving and ranked second in receptions this past year. He had 2 kickoff returns for 32 yards. He was a top 300 wide receiver prospect coming out of Vero Beach High School. So he was one of the top players in Florida, top wide receivers in Florida. I think all these guys are speedy wide receivers. We have Justin Franklin, a 5'8", 160 wide receiver from Gardner Webb. He started out, this is the guy I think, he was the high-rated 3-star prospect. I think he started out at LSU, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see. Justin Franklin, Gardner Webb. He was let's check. Let's see. No, I think I'm off base with him. Let's see. One of these guys started out somewhere else before they transferred to Gardner Webb. I think I'll know him when I see it. He didn't transfer. He just played at Gardner Webb. Last year he played in 14 games and had 40 receptions for 633 yards and 4 touchdowns. Had 4 rushes for 45 yards. Completed 2 passes for 126 yards and 2 touchdowns too. As a freshman, he had 37 receptions for 562 yards and 4 touchdowns. Okay. He was preseason All Big South last year, or in 2022. Didn't play much in 2022. We have Willie Harris from Cochran, Georgia. He transferred from Gardner Webb. He played in 31 games, had 53 tackles, 17.5 tackles for loss, 9.5 sacks, 13 quarterback hurries, 1 forced fumble, and 1 fumble recovery. He was a all-state selection in Georgia. One thing I'm noticing about all these guys is they're all-state selections in Georgia. So I know the Trey Lamb has connections to high school football down there, so I think that's going to really help ETSU moving forward. All these guys are stout. We have Dalen Howard, one of our first non-Gardner Webb guys on here. He transferring from Georgia Military College. I think that's a prep school. JUCO maybe. I'll have to look it up here after the show. But he played in 11 games in 2023. Recorded 30 tackles, 10 tackles for loss, and 6 sacks. So he should be a good depth signing along that defensive line, or probably could play linebacker too. We have Nick Hunter from Gardner Webb. He played 22 games at Gardner Webb, had 28 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, 1.5 sacks, 5 hurries, and 1 forced fumble. Another all-state selection out of Georgia. All these guys, we have some good guys coming in. Okay, here's the guy that was a high-ranked prospect. A.J. Johnson, another Gardner Webb transfer. He redshirted in 2022, played 9 games last year, had 20 receptions for 284 yards and 3 touchdowns. He was a 4-star ranked prospect. I believe he transferred from, I think he transferred from somewhere. A.J. Johnson, ETSU football. Let's see. Gardner Webb. A.J. Johnson. There's a story with him. I forget it, but he had offers from a lot of bigger schools and ended up going to Gardner Webb. He ended up, now he's here at ETSU. Good size for a receiver. I'm not sure, probably speedy. All these guys I'm assuming are speed guys. None of them are too big, bulky guys. Another prospect I'm excited about, Jalen King, who was Gardner Webb's better QB this past year. He played in 9 games, completed 107 passes for 1,223 yards and 11 touchdowns, rushed for 401 yards and 5 scores. He started the last 7 games of the year. I think the other guy got hurt. He didn't play as good as Jalen King did. Jalen King, I think he will be. We may have 2 QBs. It's going to come down. It's going to be a QB battle between him and Cole Doyle. He was another all-state selection in Georgia. All these guys went to Gardner Webb, helped lead them to the playoffs. Hopefully, with the talent we have coming back with these Gardner Webb guys and the high school guys and other transfers, we can build a SoCon contender next year. Another offensive line, Will McCraw from, I think I'm saying that right, from Gardner Webb. He played in 12 games, or started 12 games last year, played in 9 in 2022. All region and all state in Georgia. Some good size on that offensive line. We have a Tyson Moore, another offensive line from Gardner Webb. He's going to be some depth along that offensive line, which we desperately need. We have another wide receiver. Basically, all of Gardner Webb's wide receivers transfer here. Kareem Page, he played in 18 games over the last 2 seasons. A total of 55 catches for 581 yards and 3 touchdowns. Led Gardner Webb with 37 receptions in 2023. let's see, season high 72 receiving yards. He was a All-State guy. He rated as the number 7 senior prospect in Northwest Georgia. I like to hear that. All these guys are talented. I think with running the air raid, we're going to have spread the ball around a lot. So we're definitely going to need them. Tawan Royal, another Gardner-Webb transfer. Basically, all these guys are Gardner-Webb transfers outside of 3 or 4 of them. Tywan Royal, he played in 1 game, probably going to be a depth guy, all region in Norcross, Georgia. He's a DB, 6-foot DB. Definitely going to need that size. Cam Sims, one of our few non-Gardner-Webb transfers. He transferred in from Mercer. He's a 6'2", 185 defensive back. He played 14 games at Mercer, posting 38 tackles, 2 interceptions, and 3 pass breakups. In 2022, he had 30 tackles and 2 interceptions. It's good to see. He was a 3-star recruit as well. It's good to see us stealing some talent from some in-conference rivals. Hopefully he can see the field and be a good impact in that secondary. We have Micah Sumter, one of 2 FBS transfers, I think. He's a 6'4", 300-pound offensive line. He was a freshman last year and didn't play. He was a 3-star recruit coming out of high school. So he may be a starter. We'll watch for that. Another transfer from Gardner-Webb along the offensive line, Gabe Thompson, 6'3", 310 offensive line. He was a 2-time all-conference selection, started 25 games. Okay, this might be our best O-line transfer right here. Of course, they had their Russian attack last year. 9 games, 4 games. He graded out 89% and registered 38 pancake blocks his senior year of high school. Okay, that's a good pickup for us. Rashad Whitehead, 6'3", 255 defensive lineman. Let's see, how long are we going on this podcast? We're at 22 minutes right now. Sorry if this kind of looks, it's just me reading off stats, but I mean, that's basically what we're doing. We're going down through this class and talking about all the players here. He played 12 games, posted 12 tackles, 2.5 tackles for loss, and 1 sack. He spent time at Liberty as well. Played 7 games for the Flames. He saw a little bit of playing time there. Even played in a bowl game against Eastern Michigan. So he might be a good rotation piece along that defensive line. Seth Williams, a 6'4", 300-pound offensive lineman transferred from Appalachian State. Played in 13 games, one of their depth pieces. He's probably going to be a starter along the offensive line. We'll have to look and see who all we have, but he will probably be a starter with his experience and size. And our last transfer that we're going to talk about today is Jaden Woods, a 6 foot, 205 defensive back who transferred from Akron. He played quite a bit for Akron. Played in 12 games in 2022 and 4 games last year. He totaled 31 tackles, 2 pass breakups. He was also Eastern Kentucky. He totaled 53 tackles, 2 interceptions, and 6 pass breakups there. He was a 3rd-team All-ASUN in 2021. He was also from Decatur, Georgia. He was one of the top players there. So he's all these transfers, lots of size, lots of speed. I think these are going to help us build that depth back up. And I think that's all the transfers for right now. I think there may be some others that haven't been posted yet, but we'll talk about them later in a future episode. We have our freshman signees. We have a 3-star, Jordan J.C. Anderson, 6'3" wide receiver from Jacksonville, Florida. So that wide receiver room, I'm really liking our wide receiver room next year. We have Jeremiah Curry, a 5'11" linebacker from Bluffton, South Carolina. He was a first-team All-Region selection and registered 108 tackles from Bluffton, South Carolina. So that's someone to look out for in the future. Okay, probably the biggest commit we got in this class, as far as high school players, Reese Fountain, 6', 189 QB out of Rome, Georgia. He threw for over 11,000 yards and 99 touchdowns in his high school career. 41-7 as a starter, and was the 2023 Region 6. What was that? 6A. That'd be 6A. Player of the Year. He had 44 passing touchdowns and completed 74% of his passes as a senior. And he was in offense to average 47.5 points a game. I think he's going to be perfect for the air raid offense. He had FBS offers from Georgia Southern, Jacksonville State, some other. I think Wofford offered him too. And there's several others that were in on him. But that's going to be a big help as he develops. He may redshirt next year with Cole Doyle and Jalen King. Just depends on who wins the battle and who Lamb thinks is the best. We have Isaiah Hall, a 6'3", 270 offensive line from LaGrange, Georgia. All-region selection there. Well, not much to say. I mean, you can't really hype up offensive lineman prospects unless they're like Quentin Nelson or something. You never know how they're going to do. Taylor McClure, 6'1", 210 linebacker from Hayesville, North Carolina. Multi-sport athlete. We'll see how he is. There's not much to say there. Travian Watson, 5'11", 175 wide receiver from Gainesville, Georgia. And the last one, we have Braxton Wilson, a 6'4", 275 defensive line from I can't pronounce that. Fayetteville, Tennessee. I think that's how it's pronounced. I could be wrong. That's a big boy right there. Totaled 65 tackles, 10 sacks, 18 tackles for loss, and 2 forced fumbles in his senior year. It was an all-region selection. So that covers the class for right now. I think there's some other guys that have committed or signed in the last couple weeks because this was back before Christmas when signing day officially was. But that's a stout class. Like just the skill position players we got, and the big thing was getting a QB that could run Trey Lamb's offense, and we got 3 of them. 3 very good QBs. I know a lot of people were sad Tyler Riddell's leaving. I'm sad too. But carrying on in the Buccaneer spirit of him, that 2021 season and all the great things he does, I'm grateful for him. And we'll see what he does in the future. But I guess it's the Cole Doyle, Jalen King, or what's his name? I am silly. Let's pull it up. Reese Fountain. All 3 of those guys. It could be any one of them that breaks out and wins the starting job. It may be multiple, but I wouldn't recommend that just based on what I've seen before. So that about covers the recruiting class. I think it's a good class, really great class, first-year class for Trey Lamb. Covered all the needs we had, spread it out, all different positions, O-line, D-line, linebacker, secondary, QB, got 1 tight end. But you don't need a super amount of tight ends, just a few. Wide receiver, of course. One thing I did not see was running back. So we may pick up one later on. Or maybe he's just happy with the guys we have. I know we have bring back Bryson Irby and some other guys. But I think he has everything covered in that class. I guess the next thing I'm going to talk about before I transition into basketball. Back before Christmas, we saw a longtime member of the Buccaneer family finally get a head coaching opportunity in Billy Taylor. It wasn't at the D1 level like some of us had hoped, but it was at Tusculum. They had an opening. Their head coach left to be Tusculum. Jerry Odom. He went to be news. Gosh dang it. Jerry Odom football. He was named the defensive coordinator at Western Carolina. So that opened up an opportunity for Billy Taylor to get his first ever head coaching opportunity. I'm rooting for him there. Just had to do a quick shout out to him. There's rumors he was going to go to get the Carson Newman job, but he decided to stay closer to Tri-Cities. I've heard he still wants to be around the ETSU program a little bit, and that may be his only opportunity to get a head coaching job. So I'm happy for him, and I hope he does great things there. I may have to check out a Tusculum game sometime. But other than that, it's been a crazy week in college football news. Of course, we had the championship on Monday. Michigan won. I know that's a lot of controversy for a lot of people. So we'll see how that goes. You could have seen it coming. They just were the most talented team in FBS. FCS, South Dakota State dominated Montana. Their QB, Clifton McDowell, entered the portal, so we'll see where that goes. Now, and then after that, we had some massive news this week. Pete Carroll retired in the NFL, and then later on in the afternoon, the news finally dropped. Nick Saban retired, so there may be a wave that affects the Southern Conference. Just depending on what happens. Someone might get hired. A bunch of people might get hired. I wouldn't worry about our staff as much, but Nick Saban retiring, that's college sports defining move. And then, of course, Bill Belichick got fired after the Patriots stunk it up this year. But we'll talk less about that since that's more pro sports, but we can get into it a little bit here on this show. But that's about all I wanted to say as far as the football segment. To transition us into basketball, I was just going to ask the trivia question today is what postseason tournament did ETSU play in Coach Steve Forbes' first year at ETSU in the 2015-16 season? Was it A, the NIT, the B, the CBI, the C, the CIT, or D, the Vegas 16? I'll give you about 5 seconds because most people are going to know this like that. If you followed ETSU sports for around last 10 years. But it was D, the Vegas 16 tournament, the ill-fated Vegas 16 tournament that they wanted to get some of the high majors that didn't make it to the NIT or NCAA tournament, but they all turned them down. So it was some decent mid-major schools. Let's see. I'm going to go find. Let's go back. Vegas 16. I believe who won it all. Champions were Old Dominion, runner-ups Oakland. We had Townsend, UC Santa Barbara, Tennessee Tech, Old Dominion, Northern Illinois, Louisiana Tech. I believe we beat Louisiana Tech. Yeah, we beat Louisiana Tech and then lost to Oakland. But that was just an interesting piece of trivia to transition us to basketball. When I left you all last gave you an update on the season, the Buccaneers were 4-4. Their November to start was a bit up and down, and they had just beaten Jacksonville State on the road to get their first road win of the year. After that, they had a close one with Tennessee Tech, much closer than it should have been. That was a home game. Quamari Peterson had a great performance then, 23 points. The next game, gosh dang it, it's not loading fast enough, but overall in December they went 6-1. Had a lot of great success, showing the potential of Brooks Savage as a head coach. That 6-1, gosh dang it, my internet's being crap right now. Let's see. ETSU. Let's pull it up. Well, they went 6-1 in December after that 4-4 start. 2 losses, and then they had the 4-6, 6, 2, 3, 4, 5. After that, after the Tennessee Tech game, they blew out Tusculum, a bad D2 team. Of course, it's Tusculum. That was a replacement game for a Delaware was supposed to play us, but they backed out. We then beat Kansas City, UMKC at home, just before Christmas. We had a pretty dominant performance. Asamoah played great. Quimari, Karan Boyd played great. We had a tough loss on the road to Utah State, who is now ranked. They are one of the best mid-major teams in the country. They have, I don't know if they're a Sweet 16 team. They may get one win off in the tourney. They just dominated us, and we couldn't hit free throws, but Jaden Seymour had a bonkers performance. He had 30 points. Gosh dang it. Sorry about these issues. I'm just trying to find Jaden Seymour stats for this game. Box score. Box score for this game. It's taken forever. All I know is Jaden Seymour had 30 points. And he's been on a tear here lately. He's been just balling out, hitting threes galore, playing physical, getting rebounds, boxing out. Let's see. I hate that my computer wants to be slow. My internet wants to be slow just because I'm recording the podcast. Let's see. Okay, and then the next game we went on the road and dominated Eastern Carolina. I think we led the entire game pretty much. That was a big road win over an American opponent. Seymour had 24 rebound. Boyd led in rebounds. Quimari Peterson. He's been our assist leader most of the year. So he continues to ball out. Against Mercer, we start off conference play 80-69. Quimari Peterson had 22. Jaden Parker, 12 rebounds, and Gabe Sisk led in assists. But we start off conference play really strong. That was a good game. Shut down Mercer. But the last two games have been rough for ETSU. I hope to get this podcast out when they were still on the roll, but unfortunately not. We lost to UNC Greensboro on the road, and we just shot poorly in the second half. We had them tied up in the first half, and unfortunately we lost. I'm not sure if it was something related in the game or not, but Karan Boyd is out for a little bit, I think, because of a foot injury. He had a boot on last night. We lost to Western Carolina, who just shot the lights out. We couldn't keep up. Jaden Seymour played pretty good. Ebby played pretty good. Peterson, all right. But the rest of the team didn't really show up. Not enough rebounding, not enough defense, and Western just couldn't miss. But ETSU still has time to turn it around. It's been about what I expected, about a 500-ish team this year. We have a lot of talent, and I think Brooks Savage is coming into his own as a coach. Utah State's coach complimented him. A lot of other coaches, I think highly of him. I think highly of his coaching tactics, but his coaching performance thus far this year. I think it's a W higher for ETSU. We're a lot further along than we were at this point last year, or even in last 3 years. The year under Shea, the 2 years under Oliver. I think it's going to take a minute, but we're going to be a contender in the SoCon. Now we got to beat teams that have winning records. That's what it comes down to. We got to beat the UNC Greensboro and Western Carolina, who looking like the two strongest teams in the conference, I think. I think, who do we play next? We play Furman next on Saturday at Furman. We're going to need to get that victory, man. We need to get a road victory bad. We only have 2 thus far this year, and just to even us up in the conference, and Furman isn't that good this year. I believe their last game they had like their top 4 scorers out, or something, top 3, something like that. And then we go on the road again against Wofford, and then on the 21st we have probably our biggest game, a home game this year so far, against Chattanooga, the rivalry. It's time to get one back against them after losing these past several years with Lamont Paris teams, and then now Dan Earl. We got to beat them. We got to get one back on them. But that's about all I had to talk about. I just hope Jaden Seymour keeps it up with his all. I think he's going to be all conference. I don't know if he has enough. Our team's record isn't good enough to get Player of the Year. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But Seymour is tearing it up. It's probably going to come down to him and Woolbright. It'll probably be Woolbright at Western Carolina. But he definitely should be first team. But just wanted to briefly talk about the Lady Bucks as well. They are just Buccaneers. I think it's just the Buccaneers now. I forget if it was. Sorry if I said it. Women's basketball. ETSU Buccaneers win. Okay, they're just the Bucks now. They at some point I think they were the Lady Bucks, but they changed it. But they are continuing up their pace. They just started conference play tonight. They are 12-4. So they've done a pretty good job this year. They just started conference play and smoked Sanford. Their leading scorer, Kendall Foley, was out. And wait, I think that's their leading scorer. Let me go check. let's look at. Please pull up. Please pull up. Stats. Stats. No, it's Nedova Brown. Kendall Foley is their second leading scorer. But Kendall Foley was out tonight, I believe. But hopefully that isn't a recurring issue for them, and they keep up the strong play, because it matters to keep the men's and women's team good at all times, since those are two of the biggest sports here at ETSU. But I think that's all I have for tonight. I didn't want to go too terribly long, because I got to get to bed. Got work tomorrow, and I got a long drive, road trip. But just wanted to give a shout out. As I mentioned before in a previous podcast, this podcast is now a part of the Sectator Media family. Left Turn Colt and a few other podcasts. Their owner Cody, he was partially responsible for me creating this podcast, getting a start. He helped me get it fired up, but I just wanted to say I'm associated with them now, and you should be seeing a lot more social media posts interacting with them. But that's all I wanted to say. If you want to be on the podcast, or want to reach out to someone that I could have on, I'd appreciate it. Just tell all your friends, tell your fellow coworkers that the State of the Buccaneers podcast is back on air, and going to be bigger and better than ever this year. I have enjoyed talking to y'all, and I hope you all have a good night. Godspeed, and go Bucks.